Hi there, my name is Nikolas Badminton. I'm a futurist. I help my clients look out 5, 10, 20 plus years into the future so they can do better strategic planning today and start to anticipate some of the risks that are ahead of us. And thanks to Mike and all of the crew for having me along today. I'm going to talk about speculative dystopias, and I've just signed a book deal with a publishing house to write a book on using dystopias for planning. And this book really starts to shift our mindsets from looking at what's happening today, what's in front of us, strategically what's going to happen in the next 6, 12, 18, 36 months, to ask what if? What if the future was going to be different? Now, a lot of futurists like to look at positive futures, and I do too. I work with a lot of clients around that. But I encourage my clients to do a little bit more, and to start looking at the terrible futures that could be wrought ahead of us by the bad decisions that could be made today. Now, the short-termism of the current cycle of elections and governments and ideals is really starting to affect the world, and we're starting to see some bad situations unfold. I mean, we're still living in a pandemic, and part of the problem in many countries around the world is a lack of long-term thinking and a recognition that a future with something bad happening in it could actually happen. So asking what if a pandemic happens, we're asking what if there could be water shortages, there could be terrible futures where energy is traded and is no longer a valued resource that's just available to everyone, is something that's really, really important. And really what's important for us to do today is recognize that we're in a constant state of collapse. Now, out of the other end of collapse is transformation, and that's really positive. But for the last 280 or so years, the Industrial Revolution of transportation, energy, and communications has been constantly changing. And now with the addition of human biology, or what I call infinite humanity, where you've got transportation, energy, biology, and communications all working together, is in a constant state of struggle. And that collapse of misinformation, bad government rule, kakistocracies, and trading on a global theater with everything from energy to war is causing us to really wonder where we are, where's equity and where's equality in our modern world. Well, to be honest, we're surrounded by inconvenient truths. Our modern world was created by war and taxes. It's how our borders are. It's why we live in countries, and it's why we do what we do. The Industrial Revolution has delivered profit for the few and servitude for the many. The 5 or 6 day work week was created by the people that ran factories, so you could spend the money on the goods that you created on the work lines in there. So that servitude can feel very real, and especially during the pandemic, it has done for many people. There's always going to be a hierarchy of power, and no matter how hard we aim to create equality, it's going to be really difficult to do that, because there's always the people that have and the people that have not, and the gap between them is growing. And I'm a technologist, and I have been for over 25 years. And I try and work with clients to be responsible about that usage, because ultimately technology will change humanity. And it's those that create it that set our trajectory of where our futures will lay. And that could be a dystopian future where we're within a system, our data is harvested and sold. Does that sound familiar? Or it could be something where we're liberated to have open thoughts, open data, and real power for the many. And the idea of users is kind of dystopian in its own way. You know, are we addicted to the technical platforms? Are we monetized like drug dealers would monetize the addicts? The users are a central part of the machinery of despotism. So we're looking down the barrel of a gun at dystopian futures. It's not to say that this is necessarily a bad thing. I actually think that it's positive to look at the things that could come ahead of us, and the terrible times, when thought about properly, can be incredibly powerful. I like to look at science fiction, I like to look at film, I like to read, I like to look at speculative art, and I like to really question, what if that future was different? Here's a selection of what I think are some of the best dystopian moments from film and television from the past few years.
In our world, there will be no emotions except fear, rage, triumph and self-abasement. The sex instinct will be eradicated. We shall abolish the orgasm. There will be no loyalty except loyalty to the party. But always there will be the intoxication of power. Always, at every moment, there will be the thrill of victory, the sensation of trampling on an enemy who is helpless. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. The moral to be drawn from this dangerous nightmare situation is a simple one. Don't let it happen. It depends on you.
If you haven't read 1984 by George Orwell, you need to go and read it now and take some of those lessons about Big Brother is watching us and the new kinds of language and being able to work undercover to even have things like sex. Now, are we in that world today? In many ways, in many societies, we are. And have we stopped it from happening? No. Are we actively stopping it from happening? No. So, Orwell and his dystopias of 1984 haven't been listened to. As a futurist, I work with people so that we can design terrible futures and we can listen to them and we can start to make better decisions today. But when we're looking ahead, we have to realize that there are many things that we have to frame and we have to wonder what's the worst that can happen. Global warming, the nexus between water, food and energy is probably going to be one of the most important things to be discussing over the next 30 to 50 years. War and civil unrest, organized crime, unethical technology, mass compliance, uprisings, and multi-generational trauma as well. We carry the memories of trauma through the generations and we have to disrupt that. And it's something that a lot of leaders ignore. And this is a dystopian view, in a way. And this is a way that I like to think about the world, shifting our mindsets from what is to what if. What if the world was going to be a terrible place? But I do like to land in a positive place as well. Sure, we can talk about speculative dystopias, but ultimately we need to land in a positive place and understand that there's a roadmap ahead of us, which creates equity, and creates equality. It creates power for the many, not for the few. That creates wealth equality and really deals with access to basic human needs and to create a level playing field of the world. Now, if you like this, just scan this code, come to my website, take a look. You can contact me through the contact page there. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter. I share a lot of my thinking about dystopias, about utopias, and everything in between. Thanks very much and have a great day.